All right, thank you. It's good to have you here, Jackie. Um, yes. So you're a creative director, you're a brand activator, and the founder of the Well Connected agency. How did you
Yes.
put this together? How did it all start?
Well, that's really a loaded question because, per se, I started my agency um, on a whim, I would say, pretty much. So, what happened was I actually went to school for fashion design, wanted to be a bridal designer. So, through my fashion journey, I ended up on the PR team for a year-end fashion show. I was on the student council at my college, and I kind of got into events that way. And through being on the PR team for our year-end fashion show, the teachers at the time were like, you should get into publicity, you should get into events. I took a certificate program right after my fashion design program, and that kind of
Right.
launched the agency. But I still thought I would end up in fashion. I thought I would be a designer. I thought I would, be living my best Disney princess life. And I'm not really doing that. So the agency really came about because as I was trying to find my footing, I knew I liked talking with people and I really like being with people, and I was trying to figure out how do I get my own clothing brand to be successful. And so I started falling into volunteer roles at different fashion weeks and fashion shows and magazine events. And then because
That
of my
was
bubbly
for,
personality, I started.
for and that was for clothing
Hmm?
brands, did you say?
Yes. Yes, yeah. Like I started, working for Toronto Fashion Week and helping designers and doing like Elle Magazine Canada and supporting them as a volunteer. So it turned into helping the media team or the PR team or the events team or the styling team. So I did it all. Like I've styled people, got them on the runway, took off the clothes, I've fixed the clothes, I've checked in celebrities, sat them and seated, worked on production. So I've kind of had a wide scope of that. And as I was doing that, I got more comfortable with media. I'm naturally a talkative person, very bubbly. And so then I was like, oh, that girl up there, you put her up front. She's fun. She's flirty. And it kind of started to segue. So as I started interning and volunteering more, I got more deep into it and then further away from design. Um, and so I was like, okay, let me try doing journalist work and trying to apply for jobs. Couldn't apply because I didn't have the credentials for school. Everything said fashion, fashion, fashion. So I just
Yeah.
kept volunteering, kept, giving my time. And then I started doing things on my own because I see things very differently than other people.
Hmm.
Because I'm a creative at heart, there's multiple ways. So I started doing my own thing, putting myself out there, and then, I still couldn't get a job. And so I was like, okay, let me try going back to school since everybody says I need this credibility. But at the
Hmm.
time, I'd already done a couple of my own events. I've already worked with big brands at the time. And I went back for post grad in 2016. So I was 28, I think, by the time I went back to school. So my teachers were like, why are you here? And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know anything. And so then I did my program, graduated with a 4.0, whatever. And then when I started applying for work, I couldn't get hired because I'm a conflict of interest. They're like, you have your own agency, you
Yes.
work with brands, they think I'm going to poach clients. So I ended up in a dead end recruiting job, training people, which that brought different skills. And then my sister and I won a trip to Cayo Coco, Cuba on the radio. And I decided to go on that trip, quit my job, and really take my business, The Well Connected, which I've had this name for years. Um, I wanted to take it seriously. So I started officially the business at the end of 2018. But you could
Hmm.
really say January 2019 is when I officially
Started.
launched. But I've had the name since my early 20s. It was actually the Well Connected Nobody because people knew me, but they didn't know who I was. They'd always see me at events and they're like, who is this girl? How is she here? Why is she here? Um,
Hmm.
so it started as a Well Connected Nobody. And then a friend of mine, Troy Monaco, who's a great publicist, inspiration to me, he told me that you're not a nobody, you're a somebody. So I dropped the
Amazing.
nobody from the name and it just became the Well Connected. And
That's
that's how the agency came
amazing.
to be.
Oh, interesting. Reflecting back,
Mhm.
would you have thought that if you had this education within the as a creative director, would that have added an advantage to where you are now? Or do you think anyone could pick up the career and do it?
So I believe application is the best form of education. So I
Hmm.
learned practical things from school because also all the teachers that are teaching off of one person's methodology and then adapting and adding their own real life experience to it. And I learned
Absolutely.
in agency life some of the some of the things that I would do. Like I would learn this way in school, but then work in an agency and it was done this way. Go to another agency, it's done this way. Work with an independent, they do it this way. So I really learned that adaptation was really important as well. But going to school, gives you a bit more courage, gives you some foundation. There's levels to structure
I
where
agree with that.
practicality is chaos. And I find the best form of learning is through chaos because it's like the eye of the storm. You got to be in the middle of the tornado. Everything is going haywire. And then you find the eye of the storm, which is the calmest
Mm,
part. And then you're able to center yourself and figure out what it is that you want to do. So for me, education is extremely important. Having a post-grad education is something my family strives on, and we're all graduates of a university or college, everybody in my family. So it was something that was a must for me, but doesn't mean that it's a must for you. You
I
have to take
know.
what resonates and leave the rest. But I found, for me, a lot of things I learned on the job has been more helpful for me than some of the practical stuff that I learned in college. Like college, I found was very not practical. Sorry, it was very educational, very strategic, very book worth. Where real life experience doesn't always go the way you
Mm,
planned. An event's not going to go perfectly like how you plan it at school. At school, you can plan it to perfection because there's really no action behind it. Where in reality, speakers drop off, speakers, something happens. So there's always something, a fire you have to put out. So I would say having a combination of both, but wherever you're at in life, just start. There's so many people doing exactly what it is you want to do online. They're just not doing it the way you would do it. So take
exactly.
it and take what resonates, leave the rest.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because I personally would say to people usually we do have a lot of CEOs out there. We have a lot of people doing well out there in their careers, and they did not go to school. I always think both of them works hand in hand. So the academic education, I believe that it would give you the basics to life. In order to get started. However, you still need the real life application. You still need the on the job training. You still need to know quite a few things about starting volunteering, for example, to get you to where you're going, because that would launch you into the physical aspect of what you're doing. But putting that
Yes.
together, would you say that this has been a great journey for you? Is there any reflection backwards to what you would have done better if you were given another, say, 10 years ago? Would you say if you've done this, it would have been a better way? You would have found yourself even in a better space than where you are now? Or do you think you've done everything you've put in together and you are in a perfect place right now?
If I knew what I know now 10 years ago, I'd be in a different space. I believe as I've gotten older, I've come to the terms that what has happened to me has happened for me and for this time and moment. Because I think where I was in my 10 years ago, I was 25. 15 years ago, I was in my early 20s. And where I was from a confidence standpoint is not where I am at now. I was still very I had a lot of self doubt. I knew that I could do great things, but I was really in my head a lot. I needed to seek a lot of approval. I needed a lot of things. And where I'm at now in my life, I'm a lot more confident. And I think if I have, if I had what I have now back then, I think I would have fumbled the bag and the opportunity because the
Mm,
things that um, happened then, I was not able to manage it. And if I had all the responsibilities that I have now, I don't think I'd be able to successfully and mentally execute and achieve anything because I'm not in the right frame of mind. In my early 20s, it was very money focused. I need to
you
pay this bill.
know,
I need to do that. I need to do that. You're taking on every and any client. Where right now I'm at a position in life where I can afford to say no and I can afford to give you back your money and not lose. Um, and know that more opportunities are going to come to me. So I wouldn't go back and do anything other than tell myself to trust myself a little bit more, put a little bit more faith in who I was. But all of the hip hop, all of the failures, all of the serious things I messed up on in my early career, I wouldn't change those for the world.
that's amazing. That's good to know. I was looking at your one of the programs you did, and it was the Carnival Oasis 2022. That was really
Mhm.
amazing. And I thought, okay, you must have put a lot into this project. You must have, with the sponsors, I saw so many sponsors on the same project. I was looking at the whole thing, the clothing, it was quite well put together. How did you do that? How did you pull that off?
Well, that was definitely a collective effort between Craig Slowly, Steven Spencer, and myself, which are partners of mine. We do different events and stuff together. So,
Mm,
how it started was Craig and I have known each other from my fashion design days, and he's been a great friend, a great mentor, just a great person overall that I talk about all my projects with. And, being someone who's been in the media space for a while, I've seen. Um, what the overall event was a Toronto Caribbean Carnival, which was formerly known as Caravana. It's one of the largest Caribbean experiences and the biggest and only Caribbean experience to happen here in Toronto, in Canada in particular. But
mm,
every year we have a lot of celebrities, people from different walks of life come down and experience it. So I've seen thousands of celebrities come by and they don't really know what Carnival is. They have no idea what they're experiencing. They're just here.
mm,
They go to the parties at night. And so, as someone who works in media and I'm very event and experience and user focused. So, my
mm,
ultimate goal is what is my users' experience? What do they gain from this? How does this support what we're doing? Why are they here? I've
mm.
noticed that they never they don't have anything to do other than go to the party at 11 o'clock at night. So when they're here during the day, they're sitting ducks. And I did the Millennium Tour back in 2019,
Ah,
having to just support it from gifting and the talent. When I was talking to them, like, what is this?
was that
What
your
is
main? Was
Caravana?
that
What
was
I'm
that
like, why are
organized by
y'all here?
you?
No, 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 no. The Millennium Tour, no, no, no. I had nothing to do with that other than they came to Toronto and I just
Ah,
gifted the talent. So it was a big tour
okay.
that was going. It was B2K, Mario, Pretty Ricky. I just gifted the talent while they were here because sometimes celebrities come to the city and I offer gifting of products and experience. So
Right.
back to the story, Craig and I, back in early 2019, had got together and had collectively came up with the idea of having this gifting or some type of experience, exclusive experience for talent and influencers. Fast forward to April of 2022, Craig's like, hey, Steven Spencer has this brand and has a venue. We should do something for Carnival weekend. So literally, we created this experience, 36 brand partners, 250 guests on
Wow.
Carnival Friday, which is a huge day to do a first ever event. I've done thousands of events, but I've never held my own gifting suite. I've never done something on such a day that is you would consider a competition. There's so many things happening, but we had so many people come out. We had Red Bull, we had Kraken, we had MTV Cooler, Steam Whistle, Puma,
Yeah, I saw so many
Sleep Envy,
sponsors, and I was wondering.
Soho Sleepers.
Yeah, so I
Yes.
saw so many sponsors on that particular project. How did you reach out to them?
So I have a lot of brand relationships with people, but I
Right.
find a lot of people talk about, in sponsorship, it's really important to have relationships, which is true, but not every relationship is going to fund the project. So I'm really good at cold marketing, cold calling, cold activation. So a lot of the brands
I
I
see.
had sat down and thought, what is the overall experience? What is the goal for my end user? What brands make sense? And I did a lot of research as well as Craig and Steven to come up with brands that we think would be good at this experience. I had a
And
lot of
how
people
was
say
the
no, and I had a
feedback?
lot of people say yes because the feedback was really good. So the no was because Carnival is such an overtaking, their budgets were already spent, or they're just not sure if that's the audience they want to activate in because it's never been done before. And a lot of people in events say we're going to do all this work and we're going to get all this and never do anything. A lot of the brands, some of them I knew, so they were like, we trust Jackie. And then some of them were like, this is right up our alley. Let's see how this goes. So we had 13 around 13 content creators, a marketing strategist named Shandell who owns
Okay.
Marketing Creates, this amazing content creator named Marley Rose. She has a great company as well. They partnered with us to create content. And so we were able to fulfill. And so now we're going back to the brands who said no, that they couldn't participate for whatever reason. And the brands that did participate and be like, look what we did. Here was the end result. Let's work together in the future. And it was a really great event. But getting brand partners is up and down. Some will say
I
yes, some will
know.
say no. Just because you know them
Hmm.
doesn't mean they'll say yes to you. It has to make sense budget wise, and sometimes you need to show out and prove. And we did that. So we took a concept, we proved it. We had guests asking to come back. I'm getting emails and DMs of people asking to put on their list. There is a need for this, and it was a pass through. So it was actually a different experience because we're not having a party. This wasn't a party, come and chill out. We had a live DJ, DJ
Mm,
Mars Forever. We had a great experience, but it was an in between spot before you go to the club, before you go to dinner. So you could stay for
I
5 minutes
see.
or you could stay for 3 hours. And that was the unique value that our audience and our brands liked.
So is this something that you're looking to make in an open event in the future, or do you intend to continue having this as a private organized event? Do you feel that in the next one you would be having it more outdoor based or indoors? Because I see that the one you had now, the one you
It's
just
gonna
did, the
be,
previous one, I see that it was an indoor event. For a carnival, people are
yes.
used to having a street carnival. People are used to going out for carnivals and having it basically outdoors. But in your event, you
Mhm.
had it indoors, which makes a whole lot of difference because of the kind of show it
Yes,
is.
yes,
Usually, it would be outside. Was there any reaction to this from
yes.
people who attended? Did they prefer it more indoors, or do they think, oh, if you had this outdoor, it would be better? And for the future ones you're having, are you looking to have it in a more outdoor space rather than being indoors?
Well, we are definitely going to do this again. It's not going to be open to the public. This event was private because the idea was to work exclusively with influencers and tastemakers to offer a more private, exclusive, and safe experience.
Oh,
And I know due to everybody who came this year, I know for sure we're going to actually get the bigger celebrities. We had pitched them. We had a few people that said they were interested, but the days they were coming in, the event wasn't happening. So we had a miss in that case. The space was Sidley, which was is a really top marketing agency, and they're the marketing agency behind We the North, the Raptors, and all that stuff. So we took over their space. We intended to have the rooftop, so it's actually 3 floors. They have an open rooftop, large rooftop with cabanas and all that stuff. But due to timing and partnerships and things falling through the cracks a little bit, one of our brand partners had to pull out due to another reason. So we felt it unnecessary to use the rooftop. And that's one of the things with events is you have to really evaluate the overall experience. Why split people to go upstairs when nothing is happening when I'd rather keep all the energy in one place? People didn't complain. We also had a private courtyard where there was a step and repeat and food trucks and stuff like that. So people were able to just hang out there. But people didn't complain. I believe because it was something so different, a lot of people didn't know what to expect. Like people were like, I didn't know what to expect. You guys kept saying it wasn't a party, so what was it? And they're like, it was a glorified gifting lounge and hangout spot, if you think about it. But they liked that they could just hang out. There was no pressure to dance. There was no pressure. There was not a ton of people that was crowding you. We had VR gaming, casino games in one room. Upstairs, we had IV drips, massages, foot massages, hand massages. And then you walked around with an empty gift bag and you were able to go to the different rooms and pull and pick products. So you were stimulated at all walks of life. So I don't think people had time to think about, oh my God, I need to be outside. You can go outside to the courtyard and hang out. Um, so we're definitely going to utilize the same space. We're definitely going to utilize the rooftop to add a different element, make it a little bit more beachy, maybe make the rooftop that club experience. But I
amazing.
believe the formula we created works, and I'm a big believer if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Amazing. That sounds even unique, to be honest, to what people would normally expect, the norms with carnivals. And I really believe that is a very great achievement for you. Is there any other milestone
Yeah.
you would want to discuss for great achievements which you've had in the past?
Yes, I mean, I've had a number of them. Fortunately, I've been enough, but one of the biggest ones was one of my clients that I work with, they're one of the largest film distributors in Canada. They hire me every year for the Toronto International Film Festival. So I've had the pleasure of interning and then getting hired on as a contractor to help them from everything from walking celebrities down the red carpet to being in the junket rooms, monitoring the interviews, checking in people, and then ultimately helping with their gifting suite. So over the 5 years I was with them, I noticed talent and media were always, they had this great lounge, but people were always hungry. They wanted something to snack on. There was nothing there. And if anybody who knows anything about media, when you're waiting for interviews, you could be waiting for an hour to 2, 3 hours because you got to do all these interviews in one space. So one year I decided to up the ante and bring candy because one year I picked up talent and I happened to just bring some candy into the car and he was like, "Oh, can I have some?" And I realized, oh, this might be a good idea to have baskets in the car with candies and waters and snacks. So I was like, let's do a candy suite. And I was able to bring, Soho Sweet Carts, Nestle, Starburst, a bunch of M&Ms, a bunch of cool brands, XL to
Wow.
the table. And J Lo was here for one of the movie Hustlers at the time. And, part of working with a very luxury agency is they don't really do photos and videos
I
of the
know,
celebrities
right?
just because that's not the experience. Yeah, the experience is we're going to get you in for the movie and we're going to get you out to go to your premiere. So J Lo obviously had her own production team at the time, and one of my friends had reached out to me and goes, "Oh my God, Jackie, did you see J Lo posted about your gifting suite?" I'm like, "No, what are you talking about?" So she did a recap for the movie Hustler. She did like a mini documentary, and
My God, what was
in
that
there you
moment
see
about?
her.
I'm sure you would be,
It was crazy because
oh,
like I got to
really,
see her.
J-Lo?
I mean, I got to see her. I got to meet her previous, so I'm not really starstruck. There's only like a few people that could probably get me like crazy, but I was like, okay, she was really nice. But for her to post it on her own and without us
Yeah,
asking her, without us paying, my clients never saw it. So I was like, oh my gosh, did you guys see? So it was just that was the biggest moment because that was my idea. The idea I had, the brands I brought to the table, it was my idea that I was able to be like, oh my God, we did this. And she posted it. So then to go back to my client, then go
mm.
back to the brands. I mean, to pay J Lo to do that, it's probably a couple millions or hundreds of
Oh,
thousands of dollars. So
absolutely.
that was the highlight and biggest, right, and biggest moment because, and it set the bar, it set the standard. So now when people see me, they're like, "Oh, what candies do we have this year?"
Yeah. Did you
Talent
get to
that come
repost?
back, they're
Did you
expecting
get to
it.
repost that as
Producers,
well? Did you?
yes, it's actually on my Instagram on the Well Connected TO, and I think it's on my
Uh,
personal page as well. But it's part of media, so it was there. So that was really, really, really unique, and it got shared. I can't even tell. It got shared so many times. Other people posted it, different people that I didn't know. So it was a really, really unique experience.
that is amazing. That is amazing, to be honest. So looking back, what would you say has been your greatest inspiration? Who has inspired you more in this career?
There's nobody in particular within this field of work that has inspired me, but I will say growing up in my home life, I would say my family, just everybody in my family is just creative and academic people, go-getters, but I would mostly say my dad. My dad growing up was, he was a technician for like Astros and like photography and stuff. And then he studied art, so he's actually a painter, watercolor painter. Um, and so he quit his full-time job having two young kids and decided to be a full-time painter and make money off of selling his art. My mom worked corporate, and as I got older, it was, I obviously went to work, my sister went to work, but the house was always taken care of. My sister and I never had to want for anything or need for anything because my
Mm.
parents supported my sister and I while maintaining doing their thing. So seeing my dad be a full-time entrepreneur, then obviously going to working as a teacher now. He's an art teacher and still does his art on the side, but he's been teaching for probably 20 years now. What he's learned and what he's known over the years, but seeing him work as a full time entrepreneur, still take care of his home, still maintain his relationships. My mother and him are still married to this day, and have two children that have their own businesses. My sister's an academic in the academic world, but it's an author and has a crystal business. I have my own entrepreneurial business. Um, he would be my biggest inspiration, I would say. I mean, I look like him. He couldn't deny me anyways. But I would say he is my biggest inspiration because I've seen him do it. And yes, there was definitely struggles, and I'm sure there was hard times, but he persevered and moved through it and has become a successful painter in a national gallery. He was the first and only Black president of an all-white art society, where in which that year we all got to fly to England to meet Prince Charles. So I got to meet Prince
Oh,
Charles when I was
amazing.
15, I believe. Um, and so, he's done a lot and set standards, created
You
historic
must have
moments
taken a
for
lot
my
from him.
family. Oh yeah, for sure. Like, it's not easy. But if my dad can do it, and I lived that life up until I was 30 something before I moved out, I'm pretty sure that I can do it. So I would say my dad is really my inspiration just for motivation, I would say, and continuation of following after your dreams.
Amazing. And
Yeah.
where do you see yourself in another 10 years? What is this dream you build around yourself within the next 10 years? Do you have any
Yeah,
do you have a bucket list of things
I
you want to
do.
achieve?
Uh, you know what? I do. I plan to be married with children in the next 10 years,
Oh,
God willing.
okay.
I plan
That's a
to,
lot of work,
yes,
by
I
the
plan to
way.
have a but you know what? I have god kids that I always wanted 5 kids, and I end up with 5 godchildren. So I'm sure they'll be able to babysit and help Auntie Jackie out. But I definitely see myself having a smaller agency right now. Majority of it's myself, which is very taxing. And I've never wanted a big business. I like the smaller family lifestyle, so I would like to be able within the next 10 years to have a team of 10 people, that a few remotely, a few locally, that we can build and work together and create a family dynamics through work. Obviously, have kids. And then I really want to develop the lifestyle side of the business. So you have the Well Connected, which people know from the agency side as a creative support agency in sponsorship, brand activation, pitch deck presentation design, event management, and then obviously agency support in terms of media application. But then the lifestyle side of things, my tagline for years has been connecting people, places, products, and things. And so I'm really driven on knowing, learning about people's stories, where they came from, how failure supported them, other concepts. So I've also been fortunate to work with certain clients that allow me to interview celebrities, interview people, really get that journalistic hat out. So I would like to develop the media side or the lifestyle side of the agency by doing more like podcast and video and talk shows. And then, from a personal level, exploring the veterinarian in me and really working with animals.
Have you met the
To what
ideal man
capacity, I
yet?
don't know. Have I met the ideal man? No, God is keeping him at bay because I think I have some things to work on. So God's like, you're not ready, sis. But
Don't
I've met
worry,
a
take
lot
your
of
time.
really
Well,
great
that's
men.
what I say. To be honest with you,
Really?
with getting married, on a personal note, well, I always say that you can't really put a time to it. It will just come when it's
Mhm.
time. You can't force it, and you can't really push it. It will just happen.
Exactly.
Yes, but you've prepped
Exactly.
yourself
And I
for that
believe that,
time.
like, I used to want it. Exactly. I wanted it so bad at one point, but I realized as well, like, again, like going back to the question you asked me about, doing things in the younger years, I think, where I'm at in my career right now, I'm laser focused here. And in a relationship, you have to be willing to split your time and give your time effectively. And right
Absolutely.
now I'm in a building stage, and I need to do that because when I step back from this, I want to be able to give wholeheartedly to my relationship, to my partner, without too many restraints. So, God has seen that journey, and I've recognized that's what it is. So I'm chilling.
Absolutely. Anyway, on a final note, so what do you have a message to give to people who are aspiring to get into this space to become a creative director within the PR, to
Mhm.
become a brand activator? Do you have any advice for them?
Yes. So a friend of mine and someone that everybody should look up. Her name is Pollyanna Reed. She's a Forbes writer, ghostwriter, celebrity ghostwriter, just an amazing person overall. Years ago, we sat and had a conversation, and she was talking about, what do you want to do with your brand? And I was like, I'm kind of confused. I'm not sure. And she said, create a job description for your business. And I was like, huh. And so, looked up creating a job description, couldn't figure out a complete title, but found a couple of things I fit into, kind of lined up the things that made sense, and then looked at the qualifications and skill sets I had, and then process of elimination. And then I was able to kind of succinctly come up with who I am at my core. I'm like, this is who I am. This is how I present. And so I would say, for anybody looking to get into public relations or being an influencer or media personality, it starts with a few things. First is identifying your goals. What are your personal goals and business goals? And then thinking of a trajectory, a realistic trajectory of how you're going to get there. And then it starts with research, looking at other people who are doing what it is that you're doing, looking for mentors, asking people for informal interviews just to have a conversation, to ask them how they started, certain things. And then, like I said earlier, it's all about application. It's really about taking the time out to apply yourself, because you're never going to do it the way Jay-Z did it. You're never going to do it the way Jasmine Sullivan did it. You're only going to do it the way you did it. And you're only going to know that by putting yourself out there. And, it's going to be scary. You're going to fail a lot, but I think if you start looking at failure as an opportunity to see where you stand, you will be better off. When people look at failure as it's the end of the world, you have not given yourself a chance to grow, because you are going to fail, because you don't know where you've been until you go there. And you're going to have to fall to see how bad you really want this. So for anybody looking to get into this industry, try, volunteer. If you have an idea for someone, I've pitched multiple people. I said, hey, listen, like, I saw your random business. I'm not sure if you're looking for contractors, but here's a few ideas that I have. And one thing I learned in design school was give your good ideas, but keep the best ideas for yourself. So give what you can afford to give away. And I always put a value on this. Is this $1 million idea? What does rolling out the red carpet look like? So I give blue carpets, and then I give red carpet experiences. The blue carpet is enough that is going to make you think about what it is that I'm saying and make you want to activate. The red carpet is when you pay, but you're going to have to pay to play. So you might have to start giving out some red carpet ideas in order to get the trust and the credibility. And then once you've done enough of that, then you start leveling up in terms of, I'm charging now, but you're using all this as case studies. Building case studies is super important for your brand. And then lastly, if you want to be on TV, you want to be an influencer, you want to be on PR, you don't need a big platform. Instagram is free. TikTok is free. It just costs you your time. So figure out what time it costs you to spend creating content. You can't be an expert at something and not offer knowledge. So continue going to school, YouTube University, real school, read books, buy courses, and then immerse yourself. And then through that, you'll start seeing what you're good at, what you're not good at, and then start eliminating the things that don't make you happy, don't make you money, and don't make sense. And then you'll get to the core of who you are. But it takes time to get to knowing. And it took me a couple of years to get through knowing that I just want to focus on pitch decks and building PowerPoint presentations for the bulk of my business.
And it's always okay to fail once in a while, here and there, until you get it all together.
Absolutely.
It's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much, Jackie. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. And we would look forward to having you on the show again for a different topic at this time. All right. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you now. Bye now.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Ciao. Bye.